Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Had to step out for a presiding officer shift, but have been tracking this important conversation, which I'm not unfamiliar with. Right, Mr. Huma? Appreciate you all participating here today, and I have heard that this question of whether there should be a national standard versus state-by-state standard keeps getting revisited, and I just want to register my position on that. I agree that ideally there would be a national standard, but only if it's done right, and not if it undermines or compromises any of the protections or gains that have been made at in different states. And I speak from experience. You know, when I served in the California State Legislature, we worked hard to pass the nation's first ever student-athlete Bill of Rights. We even got through all the debates about student-athletes versus athlete-students, but that maybe is a discussion for another day. A student-athlete's Bill of Rights to require universities to increase protections, healthcare, and resources to support student-athletes, not just their health, but with a specific eye towards academic support and graduation rates. And so I want to make a point here. For the record, while the NCAA has reported that 90% of Division I athletes have graduated within 6 years in 2022, this statistic fails to include athlete transfers who do not re-enroll. There's other concerns about the methodology. Bottom line here is statistics from NCAA are inaccurate and misleading. Using the standard federal graduation rate, just 69% of Division I athletes graduated within 6 years. So as we have this important conversation today, I want to make sure that the billions of dollars in profit that is made off of the performance, the work, and the sacrifice of student athletes in collegiate sports is also used to support the pursuit of a college degree. Again, we intentionally call them student athletes, not athlete students. The student part comes first, not just a name. It also needs to come first in practice. Question for Mr. Huma. What protections exist today and what protections are still needed to further support student-athlete graduation rates?
Thank you, and thank you for all the work you've done in the past on college athletes' rights in California, setting a great example of what states can do. But, first and foremost, if you look at the Pac-12 surveys, they did a survey a few years ago, and across all sports, athletes reported spending 50 hours a week in their sport alone. 50 hours on top of full-time school. That survey is not going to change the TV schedules and the game schedules, but it's important that athletes on the back end have enough time to graduate. So one important issue is to make sure athletes have enough time to graduate. I know the NCAA is saying that it's going to pass legislation for years and years afterwards, but the thing is, without enforcement, any rules that the NCAA adopts, if there's no enforcement, it's not going to happen. Schools don't have to abide by
And
that.
so I'd offer to my colleagues for consideration a threshold, as we did at the state level. Certain programs, certain schools whose graduation rates by program falls below a certain threshold would then trigger requirements for additional investment, additional support, whether it's tutoring or anything else, if we're genuine and sincere when we call them student athletes, right? Not just athletes or athlete students. I know my time is brief, but I also want to just ask a follow-up question to you on, in addition to academic support, the mental health needs, stress is real, and that's been under, programs to date, conference structures to date. I can only imagine under new conference structures, more travel time, more money at stake, time away from home and family, et cetera. What recommendations do you have for better supporting students in that capacity?
Well, I think first, if you address some of the root problems, it's making sure injuries are taken care of. Coaches can't push players back with injuries. There's a lot of athletes who are broken because they've been betrayed by the universities. And there has to be a third party. This is not the honor system. Many schools do it right, many don't. The surveys show it. The trainers are saying that coaches are forcing players back in competition before they're ready. 59% of trainers say that. 20% report returning players to play without even medical clearance. That's what's happening really at the schools. They're breaking kids. And now you're realigning conferences on opposite coasts. That's more pressures on academics, travel, their health, their rest. So some of the structural issues need to be addressed. That will go a long way. And for the schools, many schools should be prioritizing having proper mental health services on campus.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as a full 4-year ride. And I know my time is up, but I do want to ask just one more question because I think it's timely, particularly for the state of California, and it's going to be for Governor Baker. It's my understanding that following the 2021 Supreme Court decision, student athletes are no longer forced to choose between their collegiate eligibility and NIL contracts. As all of you know, Los Angeles will be hosting the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games, and preparations are well underway. To ensure the success of Team USA in these games, we must address any remaining barriers to participation by our student athletes. Governor Baker, you mentioned in your testimony that collegiate sports programs have been a significant pipeline for Team USA. Are there any remaining barriers for student athletes who are also Olympic athletes? And whether it's accessing stipends from Olympic training programs or endorsing products during the games, how would some of the rules that are entertained at state by state or here federally going to impact that conversation?
What I think I would like to do, Senator, is get back to you in writing on that, because that's a really important question with a lot of detail in it, and I don't want to get it wrong, okay? So I will get you an answer in writing.
I look forward to that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.